Now, when it comes to trash TV, there's always one host name that always seems to come to the front of everybody's mind. Jerry, 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 Jerry. Of course, it's the iconic Jerry Springer. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the forever lasting king of trash TV, Jerry Springer Show. Now, before we get into all that, we got to make ourselves a very hydrating Jerry Springer cocktail. Now, Jerry Springer himself seemed to be a very down-to-earth and a very sweet guy, so we're going to go ahead and keep this cocktail sweet, but we also got to make it a little chaotic. And above all else, we got to find a way to keep it trashy. 1 ounce of vodka, because vodka's usually trash. 1 ounce of peach schnapps for some sweetness. 1 ounce of cranberry juice for some sweetness. 1 ounce of blue curacao for that what the fuck are we doing here feel. That already smells like a trailer park rodeo show. Big pint glass. Tons of crushed ice. Now we're going to top this with some grapefruit liquid death, because I feel like that's what I'd be drinking if I was driving a monster truck in the next road rally. Of course, I got to give you an element of what the fuck here, and I try not to disappoint my viewers. So now we're going to put some sweet cream over the top. A cherry for good luck. And here we have our Jerry Springer cocktail. It's like a carny took me out back and just put Skittles in my mouth. Now, as mentioned before, we are talking about one of the greatest TV hosts today that dominated the networks for over a decade when it comes to daytime TV. At my age, when I think of daytime TV, I think of Ellen, I think of Oprah, I think of The Maury Show, Dr. Phil, of course Steve Harvey, and the king of trash himself, Jerry Springer. Now, by the time I record this video, it still should be relatively new on Netflix. It's called Fight Camera Action. It is the Jerry Springer documentary series that's still on Netflix. Now, unlike most docuseries that are on Netflix, this is only 2 episodes, so it's a very short watch. It's 1 hour apiece, and honestly, it's pretty easy to get through. Now, the story of the Jerry Springer Show is a pretty easy bell curve to understand. You got the beginning era where nothing was really happening, the crazy years where everything popped and everyone was kicking each other's ass, and essentially the time where it all wore off and the descent of the show, leading ultimately to the cancellation in 2018. Now, Jerry Springer himself, if you listen to any of the interviews, people he worked with, people that he just interacted with on a daily basis, just talked about how stand-up of a guy he was, just how amazing of a father, how amazing of a husband he was, and honestly just an amazing boss all around. So it's pretty wild to see when you go through multiple decades of his show, him being labeled as the king of sleaze. The title doesn't really seem to fit. His show, absolute trailer trash. He himself, very nice, honest, stand-up guy. But this show was fucking electric. We're talking 2 decades of people kicking each other's ass. WWE SmackDown style. Pulling bitches' hair out. Hillbillies knocking out whatever remaining teeth they have left. Oh, that's annoying. Now, the series starts off how most series do, and they just kind of talk briefly about the background of Jerry Springer. Nothing too complicated here. He was the mayor of Cincinnati, so that's actually pretty baller. Husband, father, loved baseball, loved Chicago. It's a pretty boring background, and honestly, unless you really, really want to, you probably don't need to do much more digging than that. The show itself is not doing very good in the beginning. Honestly, it's just like any other show. It's pretty boring. It's bland. The crowd is in their 50s and 60s and 70s. They're just an older group. Now, when they look at their ratings, which is like the holy grail talk show, they're like 17th out of 20. And like a junkie coming off a 3-day meth high, they're looking like they're going to crash any day now. In steps Richard Dominick. Richard Dominick decides to be their executive producer. Now, Richard Dominick helped produce other things like Hardcore Pawn and the Steve Wilkos Show, to name a couple of the big hitters. You can tell he's kind of got a lane of just dealing with trashy people and making it super interesting for the crowd to tune in and watch. So he decides to crank it up a notch. He decides we got to put a little bit of juice in this heartbeat. He hires multiple producers, which you can see interviewed throughout the entire series. The big ones being Tobias, Annette, and Melinda. Now, these guys' jobs all day is just to receive calls from people all over the country, and if they're crazy enough, they want to bring them onto the Jerry Springer Show. They work 7 days a week, 19 hours a day, fueled by cigarettes and coffee and what seems to be just pure sadness. Now, none of these producers really have a whole lot of experience being a producer, which kind of makes them perfect for it because they're just dumb, blind, and just shooting at the hip, making sure that they can just get more and more crazy people that do crazy shit to come to the show. And ultimately, they have the first episode where a fight breaks out and the ratings go through the roof. People lose their fucking mind. Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. Now, the juggernaut of daytime TV at this point in life is Oprah. No one can touch Oprah with a 10-foot pole. No one's even gotten close. But as more hair gets pulled, more teeth get knocked out, more horses get kissed on the mouth, the ratings go up and up and up and up until finally they surpass the Oprah Winfrey Show, which no one thought was possible. First thing Oprah does is she just goes on an interview and she absolutely trashes Jerry Springer in his show. Just the ultimate case of haters gonna hate. Jerry, of course, responds with, "Yes, my show is trash, and I wish all the best for you, Oprah," which only just fueled the show to go higher and higher in the rating. Now, all the producers' mental health kind of starts draining about midway through the series. You can just kind of see them talking about after year 3, 4, 5 that they just kind of all start to not feel good about what they're doing. Now, one of the things that you may not know about the Jerry Springer Show that I didn't know until I saw the series was that these producers were told to go into the green room, which is where the guests will sit before they're asked to come out on stage, and they would coach them into freaking out or overreacting at anything that the other person was going to say so that they could induce a fight. They wanted these people to shed some blood. They've already been coached up and they've kind of been given the green light to just go out there and throw a punch at the first person that insults their baby mama or their horse. I brought up the horse thing a couple times now because the greatest episode in Jerry Springer history is the episode where the man comes on stage and he says, "Meet my wife," and it's a horse. That's not a joke. It's not a gag. It's a literal horse. He makes out with the horse on stage. So even if he is doing a bit, he's still French kissing a horse on TV. Pretty radical, if you ask me. Now, one thing that they do really well on the show is they explain the manipulation of how they get their guests on the show. You know, they explain that they're going to do one thing, but in reality, there's kind of a secret agenda. And it all kind of bites them in the ass on the episode where there's a love triangle. You got one guy, 2 women, he's got a wife and then a girlfriend, or I don't know 100% what the story was, but ultimately he's just kind of a scumbag. Now, the actual woman that the story is centered around, she comes on stage and you do feel extremely bad for her because she kind of gets played in this whole scenario thinking that she's going to be getting back with her man, and in reality they're kind of out to make her look like a fool. Now, cut to 3 months later and the whole love triangle thing is kind of split up. The woman has kicked the man out of her house. She's doing well on her own. She's, succeeding in life. And the dirtball guy apparently is sitting in a bar and he sees this episode of Jerry Springer being played on the TV and he gets made out to look a fool as well. So he gets pissed. He goes to the woman's house and he ends up killing her. Everybody then kind of looks at the Jerry Springer Show as like, you did this, you made this happen, you're the piece of shit that is responsible for her death. And you get this big, we don't want to take responsibility, no, it's not our fault, but at the same time, like, no one feels good about it. That's about the time where the big bad bosses, the big CEOs, they start cracking down. They say, hey, you can no longer have these loose women getting naked on your show. No more fights, no more KKK members, ultimately no more outlandish shit. Go back to being a normal talk show. And at that point, Richard Dominic, who has been executive producer on this show for at least 10 years now, has decided, okay, this is super boring for me. They won't let me do what I want, so I'm going to leave. And from there, the show just kind of takes a tumble. It kind of keeps declining day after day, year after year. The ratings are just trash now. They're no longer even in the top 10. People really just quit tuning in because it's lost its luster. I don't tune in because I want to see him talk. There see people kissing horses. Everyone's there for the unexpected, and when that kind of goes away, you got more of the same. Now, my final take is if this docuseries was any longer than 2 episodes, I'd say you could probably ignore it. You could do a couple of the highlight clips and you can move on your life. Since it's only 2 episodes, I say go ahead and give it a watch. Honestly, the coaching behind all of the craziness and how the producers really influence these people to lose their mind, that itself is interesting enough for me to tune in. Definitely a series worth watching to try and understand the culture in this era. If you like the video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, throw me a couple likes, and let me know what I should be watching next. Let me know what I can do a review on next, whether it's TV show, movie, pop culture, TikToks. I don't care. Until then, see you guys next time.